Well, howdy, y'all, and welcome to Hazzard County. Population 202. That ain't counting the 500 or so chickens and the 200 or so hound dogs, of course. Now, Hazzard County may look like a quiet little southern county, but I can assure you that nothing, and I do mean nothing, could be further from the truth. Now, right there go two of the reasons this county never sees a moment's peace and quiet. That there is Bo and Luke Duke, driving their trusty car, the good old General Lee. Don't get me wrong, them Duke boys is right nice fellas if you're on their good side. But if there's trouble within 100 miles of Hazzard County, somehow Bo and Luke always manage to find themselves right smack dab in the middle of it all. Over there, sitting on her Jeep, is Cousin Daisy Duke. If she ain't the prettiest gal south of the Mason-Dixon line, I'll be a groundhog's grandpa. That there is Uncle Jesse over there on the porch. He's mighty proud of Miss Daisy, that's for sure. Well, looky here. See that big white Cadillac roaring up the road? I'll bet you a barrel full of moonshine I know who's driving that thing. Yep, just like I thought. It's Boss Hogg, County Commissioner for Hazzard County. Just look at him a-puffin' and a-fuming. He's madder than a wet hen about something. And when Boss Hogg gets his temper up, you best stay out of his way. You see, Boss Hogg is up for re-election this year, and it seems that someone has been sneaking around Hazzard County painting funny faces and mustaches all over Boss Hogg's posters and billboards. He's convinced that the culprits are none other than the Duke boys, Bo and Luke. He must be plumb loco. Those two would never do anything like that. Now, I want you to understand, Boss Hogg is not the most honest man in Hazzard County. He'd steal a widow's pension if he thought he could get away with it. In order to prove that Bo and Luke are behind all the painting, he went and put a big can of paint and a paintbrush in the trunk of the General Lee. Then he called Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane and asked him to stop over to the Duke Ranch for a little visit. If I didn't know better, I'd think that old Boss Hogg was up to something sneaky. Now, Boss Hogg may be sneaky, but he ain't too smart. While he was putting the paint in Bo and Luke's car, Cousin Daisy was watching the whole scene from behind the bushes. When Boss Hogg sat himself down under a tree to wait for the sheriff, Daisy snuck up real quiet-like and took that can of paint right out of the General Lee's trunk and put it in the front seat of Boss Hogg's Cadillac. That a girl, Daisy. Just as soon as the sheriff arrived, Boss Hogg started in talking a mile a minute. He told anyone who would listen the whole story about how some no-good so-and-so had been painting up all his posters and how he was sure as sugar that it was the Duke boys. He even suggested that Sheriff Coltrane take a good look in the trunk of the General Lee and see what he could find. Now, even if the Duke boys had been painting up Boss Hogg's re-election posters, and we all know they would never do anything like that, they would have had enough sense not to leave the paint in their car. I wish you could have seen Boss Hogg's face when Sheriff Coltrane opened up the trunk of the General Lee. It was empty, of course. Sheriff Coltrane started into yelling at Boss Hogg for sending him on a wild goose chase. Poor Boss Hogg didn't know what to say. He muttered and spluttered, and his fat old face turned as red as a barn. He knew he'd been outfoxed, but he couldn't say nothing about it, not without pointing a guilty finger at himself. He was fit to be tied. He jumped into the front seat of his Cadillac and started it up. Boss Hogg felt something cold and wet running down his legs. He had gone and sat his fat self down right on top of the can of paint Daisy had placed there. It tipped over and ran all over the place. What a mess. He wanted to scream, but with the sheriff standing right there, he couldn't say nothing. And for Boss Hogg, not being able to say nothing is the worst thing in the world. Later, when Daisy told Bo and Luke what she had done, they all laughed their heads off. That'll teach old Boss Hogg to come messing around with the Dukes of Hazzard.